Hey guys, what's going on? Jimmy the Owl here, and today we are looking at Code Vein, the anime Souls-like that was supposed to light the world on fire, and just never did. This isn't going to be one of those deep dives where I go through my journey through the game and my adventure through everything, bosses, areas, items, so on and so forth. I didn't really enjoy my time with the game, to be honest, so I don't really want to take that deep of a dive, just like with Redfall and stuff like that. If I'm not really feeling like a game, I'm enjoying it, but I still beat it, I want to do a video on it, I'm not really going to do that deep of a dive and go through each area and boss my thoughts and feelings and so on and so forth, because I don't want to have a superly overly negative video. I don't like being super negative if I don't have to be. Like, Redfall is an example of when you have to be super negative. The game was just dead broken and unplayable on launch, and it doesn't seem to be getting much better with no content, no repeatable playability, just do the same main missions over and over and over again. So that needed a decent negative video, and Code Vein doesn't. It's not terrible, I just didn't like it, it wasn't for me, but I'll get into the reasons why. We're going to try and narrow one thing at a time. First things first, this game was being marketed by the community to be the next coming of Christ in anime form, and I was there for it. I didn't buy into it initially because mostly back then I just like now realistically I just don't have the money to just buy into games as soon as the hype hits me. I've got to kind of be smart and pick and choose what games I'm buying into. So there's that. So with that, I kind of dodged this one. I'm kind of glad I did, because if I bought it at full price, I think I would have actually been kind of hurt by the experience I had. We're going to run down this. I think first things first, I should focus on the companions. So the companions are fine if you have the sound turned off, and then it's alright. Having the sound on with companions is fucking ass. They will not shut the fuck up. Every little thing you do is a concern for a voice actor to voice her or his opinion. I only ever used two, Lucas and the girl, Io, I think her name was. Lucas was dog shit, Io was broken as fuck. The fact that they can just res you took all sense of the danger away from me, because I didn't care, like, in the fights and stuff. As long as she was healthy enough to res me, I literally didn't care. I could just keep plowing through stages and stuff, just coattailing off the fact that there's a res inbound if I go down. The companion system is really just not very fun to me. I would have found it more interesting if there was a lone wolf buff and you could go out by yourself, but you can't. You've just got to go out with whoever you want to tag with and listen to every little quip of dialogue that they have for every single item you find. Enemy in the distance, fighting an enemy, beating the enemy, finding a switch, finding a elevator. How old is this elevator? How is it moving? How does it work? Who's pulling the strings? Isn't this a small drop? Isn't this a big drop? This world used to be nice. Aren't those big monsters? There's a boss fight up ahead. There's danger over here. Have you seen this? This world used to be cool. This used to be sprawling with life. There's a load of enemies up front. You want to go stealthily. It's just non-stop fucking nonsense, man. There's no need for it. Then there's the weapons. The weapons themselves range from cool to generically looking all the same. Also, the fact that they all just feel like weightless garbage. None of them really feel like they're doing anything for me. I can't really feel the weight of my weapon when I'm swinging it. My character just kind of swings it and it hits something. There's no real hit detection, I feel. It's just, you kind of just swing it and hope for the best. You don't really feel like your character's trying to put in any effort into swinging that weapon, especially the big ones. Like, small ones just they just fly and you just hope for the best. You don't feel like you're connecting with anything ever. Also, just the weaponry themselves, the weapon choices are completely and utterly fucking scuffed due to the roll system. I tried guns, and the way the ammo works was irritating. at best and downright fucking horrendous in boss fights at worst, especially when bosses have a drain mechanic, so they just drain your bullets because your bullets run on blood, and bada bing bada boom, you no longer have a gun for the entirety of the fucking fight. That was fun. That made me swap my build to this fire sword you get from one of the bosses. That was actually pretty cool looking. I don't know how good it was. It didn't feel very good. It felt kind of weak compared to what I was seeing online against these bosses. There was so much stuff with the weaponry that just doesn't add up. One of the key things is just how stat progression works. Your gear and your weapons have set stats, and then by upgrading them, they just get better. So your gear will be like, it's an A in this, a C in that, and a B in this. Your weapon scales with this, this, and this, and has a stat in this, this, and this. And by upgrading them, you increase your stats, including with whatever special, like, pathway you take in the ability trees. There's all these separate, like, consciousnesses you can choose that give you different perks and stuff, and they're all tailored to different builds and whatnot. This personally isn't for me. I think it's an alright thing to do, it's just not for me. I'm more of a favoritism in letting me attribute stats myself and pick the things I want, because the problem was that heavy weapons could never really have a fast roll from what I could tell from the armor, the abilities, the skill trees I was picking. None of them gave a heavy weapon a decent roll. It was the chunky, chubby, fat roll, and that shit stank. It feels awful. I would say anything above the first two rolls just feels stinky and doesn't really work for me in the entirety of the situation. Like, anything past the first two rolls is just not very fun to be rolling with. The first roll is by far the funnest, but fucking good luck trying to get that roll. You're gonna have to have the lightest armor and the lightest weapons, because you cannot sort your stats out in a way where you can get these things to roll the way you want. It's just, that's the biggest problem to me with when you don't get to choose your own stats and stuff, is like the game kind of forces you down certain routes that the game chooses to be optimal. Like, for example, like heavy weapons cannot fast roll, but in any other Souls game, if I do my stat attribution right, heavy weapons can fat roll. Hell, even Bleak Faith, that doesn't let you do stats in the way normal Souls games do. Instead, where you've got to socket gems in to get certain stats into weapons, you can socket a gem that decreases weapon weight so you can start rolling faster. You lose damage, obviously, just like in any other Souls game. If I tried to prioritize rolling fast over like the strength stat, I would lose damage, but then at least I could roll. It's a possibility. Just not possible in this game from what I could tell. The story itself is easy to follow, not very interesting to me. I didn't really get intrigued until about halfway through the game, maybe a bit longer than that. Until like Jack shows up properly and becomes a part of the team, I do not care for the story in like any way, shape or form. It's just a generic romp through the world and just learning about what's happening and how everything works, but it's not very interesting to me. The world itself is a big contention point for me, because everything just feels copy-paste, and nothing feels like anything was laid out with like coherency and free flow in mind. Like, nothing felt like there was a planned route that they wanted me to take. It was just a load of pathways leading to somewhat the same direction to give you a sense of freedom, but it's a fake sense of freedom because they all lead the same way, they all give the same stuff. I don't like when games do that. Just either have it linear or open with a reason for there to be multiple routes to go to get to your destination, not feel like it's linear but there's loads of space, empty space, no need for all that space only just to get lost in. The Cathedral is a non-starter of a level. They should be ashamed for what they threw out there with the Cathedral. Let's make a maze where we copy and paste our assets over and over and over and over again until, god damn it, it just becomes a mindless mess of wandering around. It's mind-blowing that they thought the Cathedral was a good area to do, and even launched with it at all in the state it is in is insane to me. Mazes are fine. But the good thing about mazes is when a maze is done right, it has set ways to figure out where you're going. It has landmarks, things you can tell different from the other ways you've been so you know where you're going. Where this maze, because of everything just looks the exact fucking same, it's all a bright white with some fucking markings on it, there's no way to know where you're going. It's just fucking mindless wandering. I got lost so many times. I lost so many fucking minutes and hours to just trying to figure out where the fuck I'm going. Oy, oy, oy. With all that being said, I can see why people would enjoy this game. It's not rated poorly in any sense of the imagination. People do like it. I just went in expecting one thing and got a completely different ballpark experience. I definitely think it would be more enjoyable if you had a co-op partner to go through it with, but if you're more interested in a story and running through every character's information, chat logs and all that stuff, I think you'll have a great time doing that in this game. There's an interesting story. You just have to dive deep to get it all out of the game, and I'm not a person who does that very well. I get bored very easily when I don't like the characters, and I never made a connection with any of these characters, so I didn't really get to that point where I wanted to deep dive for any of these stories. It is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. It just wasn't for me, and that's why I wanted to make a quick explanation why I didn't think it was for me. These are all points that go for me personally. If you like these, then that's perfectly fine. There's no reason you shouldn't like these. It's a fine game. The one thing you cannot defend though, however, is the DLC. The DLC is by far the biggest rob of money ever since the Remnant DLC. It's like, at least this one is easy accessible than the Remnant one, so the Remnant one is still more of a daylight robbery than this one. But what this does do is give you free new, quote-unquote, new areas in the expedition part of the game, whereas you just run through an area, kill the bosses, get items, and there's all achievements set to it. The more achievements you get, the more items you get from the expedition. It's all fun stuff. So what does the DLC do? The DLC adds free bosses and reskins and different version of items currently in the game. That's all what all free DLCs do. Because to get to those bosses, you need to find an item and 2 bosses, normally. I only tried one of them, and I turned it off straight after getting fucking absolutely fucking irritated by the fact that I paid money for this. So, the fire one, at least, and I from what I looked at, they all do the same. The goal is to get items to enter the final boss fight. The final boss fight is the only new thing of the DLC. The 2 bosses leading up to that boss fight are reskins / reused enemies from other areas, given a bit of a tune-up in health and damage so that you can't just slash your way through them. Then once you've done that, you just go fight the boss. The actual boss at the end of the DLC is cool, but all the MacGuffins to get there is a fucking rob of money, a absolute fucking landslide victory of we steal your money and nothing you can do about it. Hell, when the second DLC got added to the Steam page, they copy and pasted the text from the first one saying this was the first DLC still. That shows how much fucking time and dedication was put into differentiating these DLCs apart. They all play the same. From my knowledge, they're just literal elemental changes, so it's not like it gets any better. Actual daylight robbery DLC, I cannot believe they launched with that DLC. Like, it's nearly as shocking as launching with the Cathedral. Like, there's so many questionable decisions to be had in this game. So here's the list then, with all the things I went through. With Bloodborne added, and apparently I added Code Vein again by accident, so there's that.